My name is Mr Sanderson. I'm a science teacher at the City of Leicester College. The book that I'm going to talk about is Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. So the book is about a family whose the father in the family dies, and they go to London to seek their fortune and meet up with an uncle who doesn't really want to help them. He just wants to exploit them, and he suggests that the main character, Nicholas Nickleby, go and work in a school for boys, and he goes to work there, and the people there are horrible and cruel, but quite entertaining in terms of reading the book. You know, if they were real people, it would be a pretty horrible thing to happen, but it's quite an entertaining read. And the characters, obviously in the Dickens novel, the characters are very kind of quirky and you know, interesting to read about. And he basically realises that the boys are being treated horribly, and he rescues one of them and runs away, and the rest of the book is about their adventures and what happens to him, and you know, he gets chased, and it's you know, that's pretty much the book. And the book, I won't spoil it, but the book ends really well. Okay, the section I'm going to read you, I actually read in another book. So I was reading another book that referred to this, and I really liked the language and the images that it kind of provoked, and I thought, wow, that's an amazing book. I really want to read it and find out more about it. So really, this passage that I'm going to read you is one of the things that made me pick up this book and read it. So I'm going to read that for you now. So it says, the title of the chapter is Nicholas varies the monotony of Do the Boys Hall, that's the school where they work, by the most vigorous and remarkable proceeding, which leads to consequences of some importance. Okay, so for just set the scene, basically it's in the schoolroom where the boys, well, it's in the dormitory where the boys are sleeping, and it's them waking up, and they're kind of the part of their morning. The cold, feeble dawn of a January morning was stealing in at the window of the common sleeping room, when Nicholas raised himself on his arm, looked among the prostrate forms which on every side surrounded him, as though in search of some particular object. It needed a quick eye to detect from among the huddled masses of sleepers the form of any given individual, as they lay closely packed together, covered for warmth's sake with their patched and ragged clothes. Little could be distinguished but the sharp outlines of pale faces, over which the sombre light shed the same dull, heavy colour, with, here and there, a gaunt arm thrust forth, its thinness hidden by no covering, but fully exposed to view in all its shrunken ugliness. There were some who, lying on their backs with upturned faces and clenched hands just visible in the leaden light, bore more the aspect of dead bodies than of living creatures. And there were others coiled up into strange and fantastic postures, such as might have been taken for uneasy efforts of pain to gain some temporary relief, rather than the freaks of slumber. A few, and these were among the youngest of the children, slept peacefully on, with smiles on their faces, dreaming perhaps of home, but ever and again a deep and heavy sigh, breaking the stillness of the room, announced that some new sleeper had awakened to the misery of another day. And as morning took the place of night, the smiles gradually faded away, with the friendly darkness which had given them birth. Dreams are the bright creatures of poem and legend, who sport on earth in the night season, and melt away in the first beam of the sun, which lights grim care and stern reality on their daily pilgrimage through the world. Okay. I think everyone should read this book, and these are the reasons why. The language of the book is very rich. I've learned so many new words when I read this book. I always feel when people are interviewed on TV or they're talking and they're using language, I'm always very impressed by it if they have a large vocabulary. But what's really important is that you understand what these words mean, because sometimes when people use these words, they don't actually know what they mean, and they use them in the wrong context, and they actually look a bit silly. And I think, you know, it's fantastic if people can use large vocabulary. So for that reason, I kind of learned a lot from the book. The other thing is, I was quite daunted by the fact that it was a classic novel. I'd never really read one before. It was the first one that I'd read, and since then I've read lots of other books. So Leo Tolstoy, he's a guy who lived in Russia in the 19th century, read massive books. He wrote massive books like War and Peace and things like that. I'm currently reading one of his. That is a massive book. This is not as big as that, but basically it's like a gateway into lots of other books that until I read that, they would have been like, maybe, you know, really clever people read those, and you know, I'm not the most academic of people in the world, and maybe that's too much for me to read. But actually that's nonsense. Anyone can read these books. They're fantastic, they're rich, they're great things to read. And the other reason to read this book is it's a fantastic story. So it's there's lots of changes in it, and it's scary, and it's funny, and it's sad, and it's all of those things. So it's a fantastic book, and I recommend it to everyone. You should read the book. Thanks for watching.